Ready? Yep. Tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa. Welcome, everybody. I'm going to do the opening karakia. I'm going to do a Latin theme today. So the Fowler family crest on the model of coat of arms, and I will point out it's unlikely to come from my bunch, just saying, it'd be the more intelligent Fowler clan. But in Latin, it says, sapiens qui vigilanti, he is wise who watches. So today at our 20th of May Performance and Monitoring Committee, may our questions and observation be as wise as you receive the many reports. We will look at many capital works of our large district, around 5,000 square kilometres. And as our motto in our own basic district coat of arms says, urbis et rurus concorda, town and country in harmony. And as we, as councillors and mayor, deliberate today, we serve our community above our own ambitions and schemes with this at our heart. Non nobis solum, not for ourselves alone. Non nobis solum, not for ourselves alone. And may we, animus in consolin liber, in discussion, have a free mind in our chamber, but respecting each other, honorimus evincem. We're going to welcome guests today in our chamber, Salvet Hospice, and may they arrive safely, bene aventis. And in conclusion, may I, as chair, not do many mea culpas, which basically in Latin is don't stuff things up too much, chair. So with that in mind, today we've got a public excluded item, and representatives from Heretaunga Water Storage will be here. I will be vacating the chair, and Councillor Ross will be taking over at that point. So we are live streaming today as well, so welcome to those who've chosen to join us here for the live stream. Councillors will be accessing their papers, many through laptops and iPads, so they're not necessarily doing online shopping, and I won't mention a company in case I'm promoting them inadvertently. Anyway, so yeah, are there any? We'll move now on to the more serious parts. Is there any apologies and leave of absence, councillors? No. Oh yeah, sorry. Isabel Crawshaw has put in an apology from the Rural Community Board. So would anybody like to move? Oh, sorry, looking at the thing. Nick, move, and second, Steve.
Sorry, no, I've got an apology.
Oh, sorry, you've got an apology. Sorry, Steve. You're not coming up on the thing.
Workshop tomorrow has been moved, so it's graduation day.
Sorry, okay. Yep, thank you. Thanks, Steve. Cool, right. So could I have a mover for that? Callum, and seconded Mayor Sholem. Thank you. All those in favour? Against? Cool. Next item, conflicts of interest. I will declare a conflict of interest in regard to Heretaunga Water Storage at the time. Is there any more conflicts of interest? No. Cool. So we don't need to move in second for that. Next item, confirmation of minutes. So the previous minutes to be confirmed on our previous meeting of March the 18th. Could I have a mover and seconder, please? Mover, Councillor Watkins. Seconder, Councillor Lorcan. All those in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. We move on to our first item, item 5, and Mr. Allen will take us through the Hawke's Bay Museums Trust half-yearly reports to the 31st of December 2025. Thank you, Mr. Allen.
Thank you, Chair. And firstly, apologies from Dr. Grant, who was unable to be here this afternoon at late notice. So just really to take the report as read. This is their half-year report. Normally, at this time, we would be presenting this draft statement of intent for consideration as well. However, we're still working through some funding allocation splits between Napier and Hastings councils as to how that trust is funded and what are the true costs associated with managing the care and preservation of the collection, particularly as it now resides in its new home, and what that means for the the MTG slash Kahukura moving forward and how those costs are reallocated. So we're just working our way through that, and hopefully we'll be in a space to bring the draft statement of intent back to council next month. But so the focus on this report is the draft half-year report, and the trust's operations are relatively simple. They engage Napier City Council under a management contract to look after the care and preservation of the collection, and that's sort of reflected through the accounts. So I'm really just happy to answer any questions if there are any.
Councillor Milmine?
Through you, Chair. I'm just wondering why Hastings District Council are the only ones that pay the education grant?
I have known the answer to that question in the past. I'll have to come back to you on that one, sorry. I think part of what we're actually working through at the moment is formalising the funding arrangements for the trust. As much as the trust has been in operation for many years, it's been sort of just an acknowledgement that the cost of looking after the collection is jointly funded between Napier and Hastings councils, and that we've always paid this extra $15,000 as an education grant. I'm not sure of the history of it, but what we're looking at doing is formalising that through a funding agreement, and those sorts of things will be captured more directly, and whether that is something that carries on going forward, we'll have a good look at that.
Thank you, and follow up, if I may. And so would the management and administration also be captured in that new funding discussion?
Yeah, correct. So and I guess because the way of operating now is completely changed with everything now being stored in Amakura, and how that, from a transparency perspective, it is a lot clearer as to what are the true costs of looking after the collection now, rather than, in the past there were lots of allocations of staff costs and building costs associated with the MTG, and the fact that a reasonable portion of the collection was stored there as well.
Councillor Corbyn?
This is probably a question for Dr. Grant, but I'll ask it anyway. I see the value of the collection is about 43 million. Not that long ago it was 30 million. So is that difference revaluation in the collection, or is it the collection has been increased?
I'd have to take that one away, but I'd hazard a guess it's more around the valuation of the collection rather than the collection itself growing substantially.
Yeah, take some action, but I agree with Mr. Allen, it's more like to be a revaluation. Yeah. Any more questions? It's all right. I need a mover to for a page on recommendations on page 12. Councillor Milmine move. Second, Councillor Radcliffe. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you, Mr. Allen. We now move on to item 7, performance monitoring report for the quarter ended 31st of March 2026. In other words, we're 9 months through. So Mr. Wilson will, I think there's some PowerPoints coming up. Is that correct, Mr. Wilson? That when stuff are ready. So are you wanting to take questions as you go through? Happy to do that? Fine. Okay.
Excellent. We've got the presentation. Good afternoon, everyone. Some of you, it's good afternoon, a good day for the second time today, so that's great. The 9 months through the financials for 9 months, what is most noticeable is that there are no surprises with the last quarter. It's really mainly just trending on exactly what we've reported in the previous 2 quarters. And you'll see that as we go through, and probably have seen that in the report, that a lot of the same reasons for why there's an underspend, of which there is quite a number of underspends, is occurring, and that happens, has been happening each quarter. So this is just giving us a key message. One of those is around the position remains constant, and it's as we expected and as forecast. In terms of the revenue, obviously the capital revenue or subsidies received for CapEx spend, which is funded by those projects that are funded by government, are behind by around 17.8 million. But That also means that, of course, our CapEx spend is behind, and you will have noticed that. What it also has other implications, of course, then we're borrowing less because we're spending less. So that's the other side to that as well. In terms of the operating revenue, there's quite a large number of one-off underspends, and we'll just go through some of those lightly as we go through this. And CapEx spend, of course, which ties to that capital revenue line, but in the spend, because it's quite a key focus for officers, and we also focus on that for the lead team as well, because it's a large chunk of money, $264 million for the total budget spend. So it has a high level of focus in where it's sitting and how it's being run. And of course, council maintains its liquidity. Currently it's 115%. The range is between 110 and 170. It tends to sit around the 115, which means we've got the ability to meet our obligations as they come due. And we are within Treasury policy. What we've mainly done today is just giving you a series of graphs rather than lots of words on the page, and then we can talk to those because, again, it's more of a trend that we are talking about here. So as we've already mentioned, I'll just explain this graph before I start. The black line going up is your annual plan. Each of those blocks that you see, the green, they're all actuals. And that third quarter is the one that we're reporting on now. As you can see, it looks small on the graph, but we're around that $19.8 million under what our revenue was expected to be. Most of that 17.8 is driven by the capital revenue, but we also have a collection of revenue in the waste through fees and charges. I think they're sitting around $3.1 million. And that's literally due to the volumes which we've reported in previous meetings. The other thing I'd just like to clarify there is that the cost is not linear. So when you have $1 worth of reduced revenue coming in, you don't have $1 worth of cost reduced as well. That's because, of course, we have fixed costs like personnel, which regardless of whether you have a high level of revenue, volume or a low level of volume, those costs remain the same. We've also got 2 valleys at the moment that are operating. That means 2 compactors. They're chewing through about 400 litres of fuel in transport and transfer station and landfill a day. So it's quite a significant operation and a lot of the costs going through there. The other thing is the DCs are around $2.1 million short. It is timing as to when they are triggered and through the development process, and we expect to get that, but we expect to get more of that to come through next year, not necessarily this year. Are there any questions around revenue before I move on?
Councillor Nixon?
No?
Yes.
Well, it's actually about debt. Can I ask the question?
Yes.
Yeah, right. In this morning's risk and assurance meeting, our total debt was given as 493.7.
That's correct.
But I noticed in this, the debt is given as, I've lost it, a different amount.
Is it 461?
Yep, 461.7.
Yeah. So what we've done here is we're showing the net debt being the gross debt, which is the 493, less what our liquid funds are at the moment in our bank account.
Hadn't thought of that.
Yeah, so we've got sitting around 19 million or so, I think. So that's why you've got that gap there. So it just depends what audience you're looking at as to what you're presenting there.
Just want you to know I do read the agendas. The second question I've got is depreciation, which is it 3 million over budget, if I remember rightly. So presumably we've had a revaluation, is that right?
We had a revaluation in the prior financial year, and it's feeding through into this financial year. The additional values in terms of the asset value of those classes, infrastructure, has meant that the depreciation rates have been changed or shifted. Valuers also give you the rate, your length of life and how long that should be, and that relates to how fast your depreciation rate set at. And of course, depreciation is using the economic value up of that asset every year.
That bit I understand.
Yes, yeah.
So if we look at the, or consider that there's been a revaluation, so the values have gone up, where does that appear? It won't appear in this, but.
No, it appears in the balance sheet in terms of the
balance
asset
sheet
value.
entry.
Yes.
Got
I
it.
think we have around $3 billion worth of value on our assets, in our assets.
Councillor Milmine?
I've got two questions. Three, Chair, sorry. So noting the underspend due to delays, is there an expected, increase in costs due to that delay? Now given,
In terms of the CapEx,
yes,
CapEx, yeah, sorry,
sorry, yes.
that's an interesting question because I'll let Craig talk to that because we were having this discussion just before this meeting, actually.
Through you, Chair, and Aaron was going to get to the expenditure side, which is the other side of the revenue. But I just go into that question now. So some of the underspend is because things have come in cheaper, so jobs done, and that's a true number. Some of the underspend is because from the initial forecast, the initial phasing of the budget prior to starting the year, there was a degree of this project could go this fast, but actually if you take the wastewater treatment plant, which is a big spend, the procurement and working through finding the right contractor and clarifying tags in the tenders took 2 months, 2.5 months longer than necessary. It was good to spend the time because that's a big purchase and a really critical one. But that meant that we are months behind in terms of spending that money, so it moves forward. At the moment, because of how the fuel piece might change it as we move forward, depending on the projects. At the moment, because the market's still really tight, there's not a lot of private activity. We're not seeing high inflationary issues, but it is something you have to stay constant on. So we also run a project, sort of a process around, hey, look, yeah, we needed it. What will hurt if we delay this a few months? And therefore, because that obviously helps spread the debt out a little bit, creates a little bit more space. But it is a balance. If you delay it too long, the price might be higher than the savings and the debt incurred earlier. So it's an active process. So the expenditure, we're keeping an eye on that. That wastewater treatment plant one, for example, we're looking at a whole pile of forward purchasing of particularly international items so we can lock and load those prices. But also thinking through not to buy stuff too early because we're incurring costs too early. So it is very much a balancing act.
Not fun, I'm sure. I've got one more question. It's about Blackbridge. Is that, shall I wait?
Blackbridge, yes, I understand the Blackbridge question that you're asking. You ask it. And,
Yeah, so it was just, obviously with that delay, what's the risk around that? And I'm sure we were using some NZTA funding for that, so does that?
Yeah, so my understanding is that HBRC working on, the ones.
Yeah. So Blackbridge is around some money the council had in place many years ago around refurbishing the old closed landfill site, taking the existing site, which we have a contract for service for running that transfer station. Mr. Jarvis brought to previous council some potential funding, which would help armour up the edge of that closed landfill, so obviously after the West Coast, but also would actually change that site to a little bit more like Roy's Hill, where you've got more of a park, you can have some seating area, never build on the thing and all sorts of that. When Regional Council then moved into, prior to the cyclone, the upgrade program to stabilise the stop banks, we joined the two projects up. And the cyclone got in the way of that. They're still doing work. They had lodged some consents for that work, and we were in discussions and need to pick them up with the local marae. There were a couple of concerns from the community there around potential whether the future of Blackbridge and whether that should be mined. And we went and spoke to that community and highlighted the issues, potentially bigger issues of doing that and the cost implications. So that project's still live, and it's really just money that we're working with them trying to work out when do we move it forward. Do we move it forward 2 years or 3 years?
So no risk of losing that?
There's no entity on money.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Councillor Gibson?
Ed, thank you, Chair. Just in relation to the waste, if we're, like, I think you said a couple of million, 3 million short, is it something we need to adjust our levies with before it gets to a stage at the end of the year when we need to up or seeking loan? How are we going to fund this loss?
So, so the landfill committee itself has the direct line of sight of working through the book. So the landfill must operate as rates neutral. So it has what's termed a full cost accounting model, which has all the forward costs moving forward, the expenses, and there's a lot of work. There's a lot of operational underspends to also try and balance out that. We also have massive, yes, there's some fixed costs with labour, but out there, one of the largest costs is all the taxes. And so if we don't have waste coming in the gate, we're not paying ETS, we're not paying waste levy, and we're not paying the GST bill. So I think you will recall in the induction, over half of our gate rate bill is taxes to central government. And so when waste doesn't come in, we don't have to pay those elements. So there is a balancing. The landfill also does run, or still has its reserve to do some balancing if there are ups and downs through that. But definitely, we've already signalled and set next year's one, but if there was a change partway through the year and we needed to make sure that operations stayed rates neutral, that's what we have to do.
Councillor O'Keefe,
I'm hanging in there, Mr. Chair.
you're on here. Speak nothing
Jeez,
less.
it's a whole nother language, isn't it? It's a whole nother language. And I often say to myself, if our people were sitting in here, would they understand any of this? And so that's the angle I'm coming from. You know, I want to simplify it. Are there any extra costs coming up that would, you know, have we got enough money? Any extra costs coming that would stop us doing the work?
Through you, Chair.
Makes sense?
It does. It's a very, very good question. If I look at to the end of this financial year, then we have enough money. We probably have, in terms of, we agreed to fund the deficit using the credit cards. I estimate we will be slightly under what we estimated we would put on that credit card come the end of this year. Of course, once we get to 1 July, we still have to discuss on that because there has been some changes. We've got fuel that we need to discuss. But for this year, there is enough money.
So, a couple more, yeah. So do you think we'll need more money? We're going to need more money?
Not this year.
Okay. One more question, Mr. Chair. You think we're getting good value for our money?
You can always get better. And that is the challenge that we have.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you, Councillor Keefe. I think you do understand things because you asked. So I want to hear it again. Thank you.
That was good. We'll try the second slide then. The expenditure, this shows the underspend and expenditure was around $7.8 million from memory, underspent to where the timing of the budget's sitting for 9 months through. As we've discussed, there are a number of large one-offs like Blackbridge, Project Genesis, migration to the cloud's not going to happen this year, so that spend won't flow through into this year, it'll go through into next year. That is funded by debt, not by ratepayers as well, so that debt will only be incurred as we spend. Also on top of that, we've had personnel costs around $1.6 million lower. 700K of that was due to Splash Planet with the rain affected days and carefully managing what staff you needed on. So there, you know, this again just shows that trend going through, and it's widened slightly. The one thing that will happen that is the ETS carbon credits of 2.4 million, which we talked about in prior times, that will actually come through and be seen in the accounts in May. So that will reduce that big 7.8 million that you see now back down in terms of that. Are there any questions on that?
Just looking at capital expenditure in 7.3 in the report, in particular, just noting that it seems that Cyclone Gabrielle capital spend for the first 9 months is ahead of budget, which is good given the subsidies that we gain from that. So I'm really heartened to see our capital expenditure in the most important area where we can get value for community money is tracking ahead. So thank you, team. Just noting that.
Yep, thank you. And before I forget too, it's great having Grace, but I think if the writing's a little bit small, people can't see, I think either give a handout or make the writing a bit bigger, please. So, yep, cool, there you go.
Yeah, the last part is around the capital expenditure. Now, what you see here is the first 3 blocks as per the first 3 quarters. what we've done here is put the forecast in, which is that tall last block that you see. So just to give you numbers and to make this relevant, the annual plan, which is that black line, was set at $264 million. The forecast is sitting there at $234 million. So their forecast obviously showed a pullback back in February when we did it. There is some thought that it may be a little bit under that as well, probably closer to 220 or 215. We'll just see how that goes in the last 3 months. That's obviously dependent on a number of different factors. Craig.
Yeah, and I think just through you, Chair, just referring back to that revenue piece, like for example, one of the underspends in capital was Havelock Streams, like lots of good work, but obviously navigating through the consents in the community. So like currently, I think last month that was about 3 million behind schedule. So that's not done, but that's also 3 million of revenue coming through from NIF/HBRC in terms of paying the bill. So some of those underspends have zero rate add or reduction of loan, and others do. Wastewater treatment plant's a large one. For the parks team, which is now in Rebecca's team, obviously the RMP's out, and so the timing of the toilet and all those things are in there. So there's a range of unders and overs across the cost centres and across the cyclone program. Mayor Sholem, there's some projects that are well ahead, and there's some projects slightly behind whilst we chase NZTA's approval to support the project. So being conscious around getting enough design work on that program to keep moving without committing to construction until we know our partner's going to pay their 83% of the bill.
That's good. That's all, folks, but happy to take any other questions that you've got. If you have any.
Just a question from me. In terms of a normal, just to put in perspective, a normal capital program, probably 10, well, notwithstanding the water, what would we be spending, just to put some perspective, Mr. Thu?
So prior to Havelock North, we would typically range from 40 to 60 million a year.
Yep.
Post Havelock and moving into the upgrade program and working through all the treatment plants, which also then signalled with a high growth period, we moved to about 110, 120, and then the cyclone took us up. We are also starting to plan and working with our suppliers for pipelines as we come off. There's still a little bit of work to do. And the last two big projects will be Brookfields and Redcliffe sort of in the tail. It's also now working down with our suppliers and contracting, because the other danger we have is our supply market can collapse. Not that that's all of our problem, but we want to hold that capacity, and so that's the discussion with our neighbours, with their work program, with what NZTA is doing, is because the more contracting capacity we can have in the bay, the better value for money.
Yep.
On what will be a reduced program as we move forward.
Yep, thank you, Mr. Thu. I did put you on the spot somewhat, but Councillor Watkins?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. When you look at that graph, I mean, immediately you think underspend, that's great, we're saving money. In actual fact, a lot of that's just been rescheduled out into year 2, 3 or 4. My question is, where are we actually creating true savings? True saving, I guess, maybe staff interest, but where is it actually happening? Is it happening?
Yes. So remembering too that the numbers, including the annual plan budget, also include $2.7 million worth of savings that were expected to be made, and they are baked into the numbers. So that is already in the numbers that you see. And on top of that, effectively what we're looking at when you take out, you're looking at some savings in personnel, probably because of vacancy churn and things like that. You're looking at some savings in finance costs and some underspend in contracted service lines across the organisation as well, where some reactive maintenance hasn't necessarily needed to be spent in total. That doesn't mean to say it won't, because, you know, climate events happen out of the blue, but what we are saying is that they're the kind of areas that, apart from those standard one-off large projects that you're seeing that are affecting the bottom line number that you're referring to, Councillor, is where you'll probably see those savings year end.
I think just building on that, there are maybe some small minor changes around some of the levels of service where we've run run a process to where we didn't think there'd be any consumer notice, that would drop back on something on a risk that we could manage, and then just judging how much community call we get. So you can slowly creep some of those things back as long as it doesn't have an enduring cost to it. So it's just how we play with some of those responsive type works.
Right, thank you. Any other burning questions, anybody?
Just one
Yeah,
point to
sure.
go back to on the reactive maintenance. What we may be underspending there, just so everybody is clear, we are actually doing our preventative maintenance. We've got a full programme of that. So we're completing that. It's just the reactive, the additional that we've been quite, I think, good on.
Thank you, Mr. Watson. Right, there be no further questions. A mover, please, Councillor Watkins, and a seconder, Councillor Gibson. All those in favour to receive the report on page 12, say aye. Against? Carried. Thank you, Mr. Wilson, Mr. Watson and Mr. Thu. Now pass over item 7, performance monitoring report for the quarter ended 31st of March 2026. I'll now hand over to the Deputy Chief Executive, Mr. Allen, who will talk to it, and other group managers as required. Thank you, Mr. Allen.
Thank you, Chair. I think as we've previously done with this report, it is quite a lengthy report, and there's lots and lots of information in there. So I think what's worked well in the past is a bit of a page turn, Mr. Chair. We'll do it chapter by chapter, and if there's any questions you have, the team are here to answer those questions as best we can. So, and I'm just firstly, apologies from Naomi Ferguson, she's not here to answer any questions we have around marketing, comms and events, but if you do have any, please ask and we'll do our best to cover them off or take them away and come back to you later on. Also apologies from Mr. Bickle, who's unwell today, so I'm sure he would have loved to have been here for this. So just if we work through, Mr. Chair, just so the marketing and communications and events chapter, if there's any questions or comments that Council would like to make.
Councillor Mormine.
I do have a few questions. Sorry. Just so Tongawana Showgrounds, just a couple of points there. Firstly, I just wanted to know, I think it was at our last meeting, I requested the results from the survey that we were meant to be getting, just to kind of, I guess, feed into that master plan, and just so we were up with that information. I note here that the events delivered in March are really just Hoi unpackaged, so I would hate to think that we were really making that an equestrian park based on that. And then the question was, I see here that there's the trustees, looks like the trustees are now being remunerated, but my understanding was that that wasn't the case, and I don't remember us talking about that, so I just wondered.
Maybe if I could take that question offline, given the sensitivities around that, but happy to discuss that afterwards.
So we could take that as an action about the survey results, Councillor Milmine, so get that back to you. Right, any other, as we go through marketing, you're running the show, aren't you, Bruce? Sorry.
Well, not for me to interrupt, Chair. So if there's nothing else on marketing, comms and events, we'll move to corporate services.
Councillor Milmine, yep.
Just giving others a chance. Just with the Meatball Festival, just wondering whether the final result of that was a surplus or deficit, or how that's at, or is...
Yeah, again, I have to come back to you without Naomi here to answer that question.
Take that as an action. Yeah.
Okay, corporate services, Mr. Charkins is here if there's any questions regarding IMBT, our Information Management Business Transformation Team's reports, or risk management, so defence and emergency management.
Sorry.
Councillor Milmine.
Sorry, I've got one more. It's actually on media communications. So I just was a little bit concerned when I read about the KPIs down because the focus on governance matters and having to provide factual evidence to media. I just wondered if we had a mitigation around that or what our plan was going forward, because I'd hate to see all the focus on that and then the KPIs being down.
Yeah, in a lot of ways, some of it, it's quite reactionary, as there is media interest on council's activities does fluctuate depending on what's going on, and some of those factors are external to our organisation, and generally when we get media inquiries, our approach has been to be constructive and helpful, and that does take the staff away from the program of work that they were probably focusing on that day before those media inquiries come in. But we do have an approach of being helpful to media inquiries. Yeah.
Which I'm not discouraging, I just, okay, thank you.
Ms. Sholem?
Following on from Councillor Milmine's comment there, I just wonder if the future, or maybe a report in the future, could just track cost the organisation as much as possible in handling those situations, and maybe looking at media that's constructive and not constructive. I don't know if I'm being clear there, but I think it's worth just sort of digging into and making sure that we're not spending ratepayer money on things that are unnecessary.
Yep.
Not that the comms team would be doing that, but yeah.
Yeah, we'll take this as an action, Ms. Sholem. So,
Thank you.
Councillor Montepetto Henry?
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chair. Sorry, I'm on the community engagement page 22. Just the annual plan submissions ongoing at time of writing was obviously only 10 that we'd received. Do we know how many submissions we do have? Because 10 just seemed rather...
Yes, so we ended up, it closed last week. And we received over 400 submissions.
Perfect.
A number of those are just responses to the questions that were put out there. So the team at the moment collating that. Officers are providing responses to the more substantive submissions that we've received, and that information will get out to you in the next week or two.
Thank you.
Ms. Sholem?
Through you, Chair, if you don't mind me adding to that, as I understand it from the team, that's in the vicinity of 5 times the last annual plan number of submissions received, so it shows good engagement from the community.
Yep, so councillors get ready to read a lot.
Yes.
What you're saying, Ms. Sholem. Councillor Corbyn?
Thank you, Chair. I noticed there's a new table in these reports, the financial results, which I find really interesting. But what I'm sort of tempted to run away and create a spreadsheet and collate them all together. And I'm just wondering whether we could have a summary page where they all were put together. So it'd be a quick, an easy place for have a quick look at overs and unders, etc.
Yeah, we can take that away as an action for next time. I think Councillor Corbyn, you raised a good question yesterday just regarding the descriptors on those tables. Obviously, year to date, YTD is year to date. AP YTD is annual plan year to date. So it's just reflecting our council budgets.
Councillor Montepetto Henry?
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chair. Just in the risk, page 31, ID 35, legal liability, we're still at a medium risk. What are we doing to mitigate that one, please?
I guess council by nature puts itself in positions where it is exposed to legal risk just by doing its job. And I think predominantly a lot of that risk sits within our regulatory functions, our building and resource management, for example. Just by nature of the decisions that they need to make from time to time, not everyone's going to be happy, and we do face legal risk through that process. The feedback we've had from our external legal counsel is that we're in a good space around the level of legal risk that we're exposed to, but I guess part of it for us is around managing at decision time is how much risk we take in that decision-making process, and it's a bit of a balance as we work our way through it.
Thank you. So a medium residual risk is satisfactory.
I think in the nature of our business, yes.
Thank you.
Ms. Sholem?
Again, sort of playing catch up, apologies, Chair. We moved quite quickly and it's faster than my fingers can go through the papers. Page 10, just looking at digital communications, I note there's quite a drop off in website views. Not expecting you to comment on that, Mr. Allen, but would be interested to understand any observations from the comms team in the future around that. Staying connected with our community is really important, and that could indicate a shift of medium. So I'm just interested to be monitoring that.
Yep, we'll take this as an action and, absolutely.
Apologies for the speed with which we moved through the first part of the report. So just reiterate, so anything on, any more on corporate services regards IMBT, risk management and civil defence and emergency management? Okay, we'll take that. Move on to asset management, which is a combination of, so in the future, this will reflect more around how our council is structured and we manage our affairs internally. So we'll readjust the chapters as they lay it out at the moment, reflecting the changes that were made, particularly across Ms. Dinwoody and Mr. Thu's areas. But at the moment, they're a bit of a mixture, but we'll just step away through anything through the asset management.
Sure. Yep, thanks. Ms. Solomon?
Cemeteries. There was a known risk in there, which is now playing out, which is the new crematorium that's opened and the potential of it taking, I think, 45% of cremation volumes. I'm just interested to understand observations, mitigations, considerations for council.
Through you, Chair. So far, the reductions haven't been very much, but we understand that's because of a delay in actually the other operator getting up and running. What we have observed is that the price point that's being offered by the other operator is very good, and so we will have to think about that into the future. But the prices are set obviously by our joint committee.
Yeah, absolutely. Just interested in council staying informed of the discussions by that joint committee, because it's an area of risk. Thank you.
Through you, Chair, with the crematorium committee set and with this council set those fees, it was set, our fees and that concern, it was set on the basis that private facility would have been up and going for almost the full financial year, and the fact that that's been so much delayed as it worked through trialling and working through its processes mean for this financial year at least, that risk won't be a material impact to the end of the financial year, but the crematorium committee and then back to this council need to be more aware, and that committee and Ms. Dinwoody and I have got some work to do, because obviously the cremator at that facility also is coming close to end of life, so that gets into bigger, wider conversations around what's the future, what does it need to be, what does the market require from us, and so forth.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Te Asquith?
Thank you, Worship. Not your Worship.
Deputy
Worship. Just inquiring about the burial services that we offer at our council cemeteries. A family contacted me last week saying they wanted to bury their whānau member. Obviously, we do a 3-day thing. Sometimes it's longer, sometimes it's shorter. And they had asked for the Saturday, but we're told we only have services up till 12, till midday. So the number of burials that can happen, they didn't fall into that. So we're pushed to bury on Sunday, which doubled the cost. So I'm just questioning, is that good use of staff time to not just increase the Saturday, and I don't need an answer, or whether we're doing right by our staff as well as those that have to double their costs to bury on the Sunday. And maybe that's something that can be brought back, but I just sort of be good to raise that.
Thank you. Through you, Chair. You're absolutely right. There are additional costs for a Sunday, because obviously we only have staff working, Monday through to Saturday noon. I have a bit of detail about that particular example, so happy to catch up with you afterwards.
Is there a consideration, though, to look at the difference between bringing someone in on Sunday and extending a Saturday, as opposed to extending the Saturday?
Through you, Chair, that was part of the conversation, and there were also options around, I think a Saturday afternoon was a double, just like a Sunday. And I guess back to the earlier question, not to transfer, but in terms of operational choices, fees and charges, costs, and resourcing, that all plays into as we move forward into LTP, but also just referencing back to the crematorium, which runs 0 rate increase. some of the mitigations as they get busy is that the intent is the office is not open all the time, and we wouldn't cremate on every single day either, because the cremator needs to, you don't want to do one burn a day, not that we mix people in, but once it's warm and you've cleaned it out, then you can put in another one, just for efficient gas use. And if someone wanted a special off day, they'd have to pay a higher fee for that additional cost. But there are options to look at.
Councillor Nixon?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. One of the major expenses of the crematorium, it's not shown here, but is obviously gas. Where do we stand on that? Because I understand gas prices have gone through the roof. How are we going to deal with all that?
All part of the decision making, and yes, and the gas big increase happened a couple of years ago, as you're aware, on that committee, and that joint committee will need to work through that, because that is, again, is that facility currently, because it's a shared facility that we administer on behalf of Central Hawke's Bay and Napier, must run zero rates effect, and so it has to run the challenge of paying its own way.
So when's that going to come through the system?
Yes, the next one hasn't been booked, so we've got to do that. Got to set a meeting.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Chair, anything else on cemeteries?
Yeah, I think Councillor Milmine's.
I'm just looking at roads and transport, if there's nothing in between.
Anything else? Oh, sure.
Are you going to go through each page?
Let's go through the pages and through the activities. So parks and building asset management, city centre upgrades. Rebecca would like a question on building renewals.
Maybe just through you, Chair, just in terms of the building work and some of the work the building team have been doing, is that obviously the age for the new elderly housing facility is about to be handed across to us from Monday, which will see the fences working through around potential security. So that's a nice milestone with Alexander's sort of closing out their work.
Councillor Nixon?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I couldn't find it in the report, but there seems to be a very big hole down at the library where the commemorative thing is, Peter McIntyre thing. What is happening in there?
Through you, Chair. So that's the earthquake strengthening of the Hall of Memories. So where the memorial painting is, that square structure that's around it is all being strengthened in terms of earthquakes. And while they're doing that work, they're also doing some making sure it's watertight. There's been a number of leaks there, so roof work and various other.
So is the big hole there something to do with the foundations? Yeah, I assumed it was. Somebody asked me, and that's the excuse I gave.
Anything on refuse? You've had some commentary from the financial aspects of that activity earlier. Drinking water. Including Whirinaki.
Yes, Olin?
Apologies, going back to refuse, just noting the fuel price volatility has impacted waste service contractors, and in some cases notice to engineer documents have been submitted requesting financial support. Just I realised this came up in a meeting earlier today, but I thought it was worth raising with the full council.
So through our curbside recycling, curbside waste, so our curbside, the team, one of the contractors is working through their contractual provisions, which is slightly different to the other. I'm just conscious, just as public sector session. Yes. So we're working through one who's put forward a request. We've asked them to go away and give us actual facts so we can work through actual movements from time of pricing. And then it's around one of the contractors' cost escalation indice, because it is a multi-year contract, and for them to demonstrate where that indice is not tracking fuel movement as different to I'm not earning enough. And so they need to demonstrate, and there is a factual and fair process for them to work through. If the indice is only giving 20% for fuel and it should be 25%, we'll work through those facts, but it's incumbent on them to provide that information in a transparent and clear way for us to assess.
Thank you.
Councillor Noel Ustak.
Thank you, Chair. Whirinaki water supply. Now, this is a brilliantly written document that you look through with all these lovely words and you go, goodness me, what does this mean? Now, I know a lot of people out there are, really, really annoyed with with what's going on. I'm sure the cleaning pipes is great, but, that is not a solution. Now, this has gone on for quite a long time now. I'm just wondering how close we are to getting a conclusion on this.
Through you, Chair, and also just apologies around the formatting of that. That was exactly to your point there, Councillor. I'd asked Steve just to update the section, and the report got published just as they were doing some updates, which is why it's underlined, but in one respect it actually highlights this as a key issue. We are looking to bring back to Council, you recall we had a workshop where Mr Cave and Mr Kersall talked through the issue. The council asked for some more feedback, and Mr Cave and some of his team have been doing door knocks through the evenings, talking to individual households, and he reflects some of the findings. There will be, as part of the annual plan processes, directly in there as an officer submission, just to revisit some of those considerations around whether there's a holding treatment to recognise some of those households having an interruption to the service. The remedy in terms of the new supply, that work, all those investigations are going as fast as possible. The trial ball is going down to see if we can find new water. So that can only go as fast as we find through, but the key piece is Mr Cave would like to come back to you around going, are we all happy with the situation, or is there a degree of something that council might offer into that community if they're not getting the full quality service that we'd ideally do. But the team are looking at everything, chasing everything. Last week it was particularly bad. My understanding is over the weekend it had settled down, but we're still trying to chase it through and try and find improvements. But that existing water source, as we said, post-cyclone does have new issues that we just need to move away from as soon as we can.
Thank you.
Councillor Watkins?
Thank you, Chair. Just a follow-up question on that. How far away are we from that bore going down, Craig?
The trial bore, I understand it, I'd need to double check that with Steve, Mr Cave, and I can maybe get that added on to make sure they talk through that at the infrastructure committee. Because it drop into that next level of detail. When I asked the other day, I think they're actually starting to push the draw. I think they've finalised or close to finalising the well driller, but it was also finalising their land agreement because we're on private land in which we're putting the trial bore down. Thank you. And sorry, the other side of that, an alternative option was the work and the modelling work with Napier City around can we plumb into the Napier City system, and at the moment that's looking difficult, and so the best solution, potentially fastest, would be that bore, but we just need to find clean water to treat. Cleaner water to treat that doesn't have the chemical issues.
Through your Chair, stormwater, including the 2C streams and dams in Havelock North. Wastewater. Roads and transport.
Councillor Milwine.
Thank you. Through you, Chair. Just on the bus route implementation, I had quite a few concerns from public at the time that this changed in February, so I'm just wondering if we've got the report back and what the plan is from here.
Through you, Chair, there are two reports that are going to be coming to council meeting. One will be in and around the road markings that were discussed, the paper markings that will formalise where there's an actual bus stop painted, and also feedback from the, you're not conflicted on this currently, Councillor, and feedback from that work where they went and spoke to those people who had issues. The team will report where they've moved things, but also report on ones in which they're recommending to leave where they were. So that's all coming to you at a full council meeting.
Great, thank you. And I just wanted to note that at that time when those inquiries were coming, or those concerns were coming, they thought that Hastings District Council were managing that because of a letter that came to them. So I think it's really important that we can communicate that clearly.
And my understanding, though, a lot of those street meetings, particularly because some of the concerns were route, and so they were attended by Hawke's Bay Regional Council public transport staff as well as the HDC transport staff.
Councillor Watkins?
Thank you, Chair. Just a question about the 5 Havelock dams. When does the work start on all that resurveying, Mr. Thu? And that could involve substantial money if we've got to do uplifting of dam heights and everything. That'll be in future years.
Through you, Chair. So there's been a lot of work done in terms of meeting all of the new dam regulation requirements and the surveys and the risk assessment plans. I have to double check and come back to you from Mr. de Klerk on the actual next survey. What that work highlights is the dams aren't an immediate flood risk, but it does highlight that the dams, if you were building those dams now, they would have more capacity. The desire under the dam regulation, which isn't a baseline legal requirement, but if you're building one, the best practices is those dams, because of the amount of households below them, would be built to a 1 in 10,000 year return period. Now, just reflect on that, because our flood control system is at 1 in 100 year level. To create 1 in 10,000, if that was the community and council's view, we would have to either put further dams upstream to mitigate flow, you would potentially lift the height, or you let more water go down the stream. So that'll form part of all of that wider Havelock streams. The reality is that conversation might start with this council and transfer across the water entity, or some of that science and work may not be ready until the new water entity takes that up with a targeted rate into that catchment area.
Okay, thanks, Craig.
Councillor Nixon?
Thanks, Chair. Just want to follow up, if I could, on Councillor Moorline's questions on the public transport system. I mean, we don't provide the public transport, I'm well aware of that, but nevertheless, it has a profound effect on the people who lived in our community, and they also get the bill, along with all the other bills that they get from councils. And we don't ever seem to hear back from the regional councillors as to the outcome of their change of plans. And you might remember a while back when the airport reported, I asked, was anybody using the airport bus? They didn't know. I just feel we need a better response somehow that tells us what is happening, because it's of interest to us, extreme interest.
Yep, thank you, Councillor. So I sit on the regional council transport, so I can bring that back to you. Must be due for one pretty shortly, so I'll take this in action and bring that back.
Thank you very much. That's good.
Cool. Councillor Te-Ao Skipworth.
Thank you, Deputy Worship. I want to have a conversation about the school speed limits, and we've had a number of schools that have sent in grave concerns around safety. So is anything coming back? So it says, that the variable speeds have all been installed and such. Is Omahu School one of them, because they were waiting on stuff?
That was one of the first, that was one of the first that got the digital sign installed. And there is ongoing work, which I was just catching up with the team, and with former councillor Apatu, who was doing some work in there just to re-coordinate, making sure the discussions that were going on with NZTA around the state highway aspect, but also that those potential pathways that this community talked to, so they're available into that LTP discussion for potential funding. So I've asked for a catch up on that. And the other one, I'm just trying to get some data. What we've found is those electronic signs are great because they collect speed data, but they actually collect speed data as people approach the 30k zone in town or in the rural. And so we're having to, so we can monitor the change in approach speed to those signs, but not necessarily the resultant speed. So we're having to put traffic counters out in the middle to confirm, are we getting the desired behaviour expected out of those signs? So just doing some work, and that also informs the conversation that we had with, that we were in the middle of with Taikura, Rudolf Steiner, around their issues that they've raised.
It's great to hear about Omahu, because Councillor Jessup and I were also in those conversations, but probably 2 weeks ago, the principal had said there were some of the timelines that we had put in place that haven't been met. So it'd be good if we can follow those up. Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So if we just move now into the community wellbeing and services chapter of the report, just step away through that with aquatics, including splash paddles.
Yep, Councillor Jessup.
Can I just go back to what Councillor Skipworth was talking about? Because I put in a referral and we didn't hear anything back. So I was just wondering, how does that work if we do get questions?
Yep.
Could we get an answer so that we can give it back?
Yep, I'll follow that up. We'll take it as an action and follow it up, and we'll talk to you offline. Thanks, Kelly. Yep, Miss Holland?
Just looking in the community wellbeing and services section, if that's where we're at the moment, I just wanted to ask a question around the security teams. If we're okay to bounce to that one, I note that it advises that the police are getting nearer to their radio network, changing over to digital, and that means that City Assisted CCTV will lose their radios as the decision's been made to restrict access. That doesn't sound terribly positive in terms of city centre security, and I'm just wondering what we're doing to mitigate that, and if officers need any assistance from the Mayor in chasing a better outcome, I'm very happy to assist.
Thank you. Through you, Chair, it is an ongoing discussion. We obviously haven't got a resolution to it, but we do understand, obviously, police's concerns around the need for their security across that system. But thank you for your offer, Mayor Sholem, and we'll certainly keep that in mind.
Thank you. And if I may bounce ahead to another section through you, Chair, the Hastings Art Gallery, I note and just want to celebrate the comment that there's been a substantial reduction in antisocial behaviour, litter and safety concerns after the Civic Square repaving. That's fantastic to hear, because that was an issue in that area, as well as safety concerns with tripping. So thank you, team.
Councillor Noel Ustak.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Will you allow me to go back to transport recovery for a comment?
Yes.
The Arapawanui River Bridge up at Tūtera, we're getting quite a pushback in the community about that. It's got a bit of a bad look to it because there's only one house and they're putting a brand new bridge in for this, supposedly for this one house. There's a lot more to the story, but I just wonder maybe if on the council website we can put out that it is a public road. We do have to have a bridge there. We're obligated to put it there. It might calm the community down a wee bit.
Noted. Talk to the team around that, and you're right. It's there are a number of properties that farm and access relying on that bridge, so we can communicate that. And yeah, that work's scheduled post winter.
There's people working there now. Yeah.
Yep. So we'll take that as an action. Councillor Noistic. Councillor Daniel.
Thank you, through the chair. I just want to hone in on senior housing. A part side that I do have is I see that we're doing a push on trying to get people to apply for these houses. I note that we have fully accepted 4 people so far, but we're doing a huge marketing push on this. 3 committees that I sit on, especially our age-friendly committee, the discussions were that the application processes were a bit too vigorous and a bit too I'm trying to give an eloquent word, handy. So my question is are we going to look at maybe redesigning the application process, maybe bringing in digitalized version so we can go out to our committees that whānau who sit on there do want to apply, and that we can help them through that process? It's just that through each committee, they've always said that it's the application process. Now we have I would call it a risk of getting those houses handed back to us and them not fully being tenanted.
Thank you. Through you, Chair. You're right, the application process is a bit onerous, but It's because of all the eligibility checks that we need to do. So as you're aware that there's a certain criteria to be eligible for those housing to ensure that we get the people that are most in need of housing into that housing. And that does require things like access to bank details in terms of, how much they're earning, what assets they own, how old they are, etc. So having ID, some people don't necessarily have ID, so that's a process as well. And so there are a lot of checks, credit checks, for example, so a lot of checks that we have to go through to make sure that we get the right people with those needs into the housing. But certainly there are ways that we can do that, so we can sit down, and we do sit down with people to apply, so we actually sit down, go through the paperwork with them. Your digital idea is a good one and something that we have considered, and the feedback to us, so it's interesting to hear the other feedback, is that the older generation like to have it on a piece of paper rather than get online and do it. But certainly we can look at digitising it more for those that prefer that method, because there's a lot of additional documentation that would require attaching documents to digital application forms, etc. But all that can be done.
Just to follow up, if I can. You said that we can help whānau with their application process. How do they access that support? Do they just come to that front desk?
Yes, absolutely, through your chair. They can come to the front desk, but probably the best thing to do is on our website is the email address for senior housing. Sorry, I don't know off the top of my head. But that will just ensure that someone is here when they come in. So if we can arrange to make a time that suits them, and it won't be a wasted trip into the office for them. But we do that, and we can do that, yeah.
Yep, thank you. Councillor Te Skipworth.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I went through the process myself last night just to check, and yeah, there were a few parts to go through. One thing that I thought would have been prominent and findable would be, what are we charging? Like it doesn't say what a 1 bedroom is, it doesn't say what a 2 bedroom is, it doesn't say what a whole, and I would have thought people could go through this whole process to get to a point where, actually, I don't want to pay that much. So I'm not sure why we're not advertising what they are going to be renting. And I know it's 80% market, but what does that mean? Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor. And we do have that information. We do generally give it to them when we help them through the application. But you're right, there's no reason why it can't be advertised on the website. Straight up.
And across New Zealand, not just our council. And so if it's not already captured within this document, I haven't been able to find it, I do think that in the future in performance monitoring, it would be helpful just to have a broad level, high level update section for the benefit of our community too. Again, given a huge portion of work is going into that outside of what I would consider as business as as normal, whatever normal is or usual within this document. So just something to take away, if we may, Chair.
Take as an action, Michelle. Yep, thank you.
And through you, Chair, happy to do that. And there's actually some quite good information that comes out regularly from Taituara that we can provide that gives us a good snapshot of all the legislative reform that's going on, which I think we talked about this morning, risk and assurance. Really does touch on almost every activity of council, so no, we could do that.
And thank you, and through you, Chair, I wonder if it's almost its own paper in each performance and monitoring committee for that reason. Thank you.
Councillor O'Keefe.
Sorry, I was a bit slow out of the starting blocks there, Mr. Chair. I just want to go back to the putt-putt, if I may.
Very quickly, otherwise. Very quickly.
Well, I think the value of that in terms of relationships, building rapport, cannot be underestimated. And I think that, this is not a criticism, those of you who weren't there, I would encourage you to get to the next one. I saw a side of my fellow councillors and officers that you don't see here in the chamber. The human side, the fun side, where laughter was the mandate of today. So we don't do enough of it. So don't underestimate the value of it. Thank you for setting it all up, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, councillor. Mr Allen and I have had a slight disagreement over him beating me at golf, but we'll work him through that. Carry on, Mr Allen.
Growth and development, Mr Chair. So it's just really just focusing on our development areas, the local area plan program, which you had an update on through council a few weeks ago. Flaxmere, Te Pāharakeke, which we've already had a conversation about in relation to senior housing. Brookvale and Havelock North, Iona Middle Road, Havelock North, the Havelock North Village Framework, there's a bit of development activity happening within the Flaxmere, there is in Flaxmere as well as Havelock North, and the future development strategy and the regional spatial plan.
Councillor Corbyn.
Thank you, Chair. Just on Brookvale, when will we hear back from that challenge?
I believe to be probably the third quarter of this calendar year. It's probably about as good as an indication as I can give. So if there's nothing in the growth and development area, that's the book.
That's it,
Mr Chair.
Thank you. So what else, Councillor Corbyn?
Yeah, just so the Havelock North Village Framework, is this the Havelock North Master Plan?
Yes.
Yeah. So when will it come back to us and how will it come back to us?
Megan Gapp is just finalising the draft report at the moment, and so we'll be looking at having a workshop with council in the coming weeks.
Cool. Thank you. So just before we have a mover for the report on page 23, Councillor Mayor Sholem, and a seconder, Councillor Jessup. All those in favour say aye. Against? Carried. So just a 1 minute summary before we break and go into or PX. So the financial results that we've seen, carrying on the Latin theme, show tight fiscal control. We've had looked at timing issues, which is normal in such a big capital program. The larger performance monitoring report that we've just seen also shows work streams progressing to plan. And just as we know, council is a very complex organisation involving thousands of different variables and interactions in the work that we do. And I know the staff is part of their job to do that, but those of us that work closely with the staff can see that they actually go beyond their call of duty in what they do. So, Mr. Bickle, if you're watching online, which I'm sure you are, and we wish you well if you are, through you, our thanks for above and beyond what the staff do. So, just in closing, this performance and monitoring report, as we move forward, we'll get Mayor Sholem mentioned this before. Council life, and reflecting on this morning when I joined last time, they said, "Oh, you joined at a really wrong time. It's really complex." Well, this is nothing compared to the last 3 years, and business unusually is what we could call that for the rate of change going ahead with its regional CCO, work streams of LTP coming up, a rates capping environment likely, a community which is suffering or in some cases hurting economically, and of course now the new Head Start program and the clock ticking down on the 3 months given. So that is all in front of us and which will come for us in the future in performance and monitoring. So with that, Mr. Allen, could you please give us reasons to go into PX, please?
So the reason for going to PX, Mr. Chair, is the information regarding the Heatonga Water Storage Facility feasibility study is at a current stage commercially sensitive and requires it to be held in a public excluded forum. And if we could just ask, as part of that Amanda Langley and Zan Harding be allowed to remain for this item, given their expert knowledge.
Thank you. And we'll require a mover and a seconder for this. A mover.
Just a clarifying question, if I may, first, Mr. Chair. I note that Deputy Mayor will be standing down from the chair due to conflict. Do we need to note that he is allowed to stay in the room as well in his capacity with that entity?
That would be, yes, thank you for that. It would be worth noting that Deputy Mayor Mr Fowler will be in attendance in his capacity as the Director of Whiriwhanga Water Storage.
Thank you, in which case I'm very happy to move.
Thank you, Mayor Sholem. Could I have a seconder, please? Councillor Milmine. All those in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. And thank you for the members of the public that have joined us today for performance monitoring 20th of May.